Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our reading tonight, the fifth reading in the 19th season of the Milwaukie Poetry Series. So, yes, we have been going 19 years, and we're into our season. And, you know, when you start, you don't think about how long this is going to go, but we're absolutely delighted about it. And we're really delighted to see you here. I know I say this, that there are lots of opportunities. There's many demands on our time, and so there are other things that we could be doing, but we're here hearing poetry and being in community and hearing the poet that I'm going to introduce in a few minutes. So thank you. I'm Tom Hogan. I'm the coordinator of the Milwaukie Poetry Series, and there's some thanks that I want to make. Certainly first to the city of Milwaukie, because the city of Milwaukie has been supportive of us right from the beginning, which is absolutely great. Secondly, the Letting Library. So we're in the Letting Library. We're in the new Letting Library. So even though this is 5 years old now, it still feels like the new Letting Library. And I was talking to a couple of people about when we first started out. Because when we first started out, we were in the Pond House. So there was a building here to my left, your right, over on the other side of the Pond House. And we were over there for probably 10 years, at least, I would think. So it was a great venue, but things needed to move on. We needed a new library in Milwaukie, so we have this. And it's one story. It didn't start out as one story. It started out as two stories. But it actually fits on the footprint better as one story. So a lot of thanks to the Letting Library for their support of us. Thanks to the Milwaukie Poetry Series Committee. So we do have a committee, and most of you have met Kristen, who was at the door. So she's been handing out the copy of the broadside, one of Ellen's poems. So Kristen's here, my lovely wife Jane, who is responsible for the refreshments here. So can we give the committee a hand? Thank you. Because as you know, you don't have something happen unless people are working on it. So we're very grateful to those members of the committee who are, for various reasons, could not be here with us tonight. So we thank them. And thanks finally to Willamette Falls Media and our magician back here. We call him the magician, Josh. So he's back here with the headphones on. And so he's the person who is responsible for the technical aspects of this, and also for the live stream. I want to say welcome to the people that are on the live stream. So thank you for logging in. And the same thing for the people that are actually here, is there are other things that you could be doing that you're not. And so you're being with us here to hear poetry. So thank you very much for logging on. We are recording it, so it is going to be up, and usually it runs about a week to 10 days, that it will be up on the Letting Library YouTube channel, and so you will be able to tune in to that. I want to say, if you want to silence your telephonic devices, that would be great. We do have refreshments over here, so please help yourself. That's what they're for. And enjoy them. Well, I've been looking forward to this quite a bit. In fact, looking forward to this ever since we talked about Ellen coming and being here while she was a poet laureate. We always love to have the poet laureate here and hear the presentation from you. So actually, thank you for serving, too, as poet laureate. 2024 was a banner year for her, poet, author, columnist, who that year received Soapstone's Bread and Roses Award, Literary Arts Stuart Holbrook Award, and was named to a 2-year term as the 11th Poet Laureate in Oregon. 11th. She has dedicated herself to writing and advocating for the literary arts in the high desert region of Oregon, all the while continuing to write poetry and nonfiction works that have evolved into essential reading about Oregon and the West. She has published 5 literary nonfiction titles, including most recently We Could Die Doing This, 2024, and Walking the High Desert, 2020. Tonight, she is delighted to debut her 5th poetry title, As Far as I Can Anthem, featuring poems written during the first year of her tenure as Oregon Poet Laureate. She is also the founder of the Writing Ranch, which offers retreats to established and emerging writers, and of the Waterston Desert Writing Prize, awarded annually to the author of a nonfiction book proposal about a desert anywhere in the world. A lot of accomplishments. What a bio. So, there's great pleasure. Actually, I'm going to hold this. I'll reference this. We have some copies of an event here for the Raymond Carver Festival. So please pick up a copy of the Raymond Carver Writing Festival. Ellen, what a resume. So would you join me in welcoming our poet tonight, our 11th Poet Laureate, Ellen Waterston. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you so much, Tom, for this invitation and for that introduction. And I second the motion for all the other thank yous you just did. I actually had found them on the website, and I just crossed them all off, but we know who they are. So thanks for taking all the energy that you do to keep this going. One small correction. I am basically debuting this new book tonight, As Far as I Can Anthem, but by the way, poetic license, anthem is a verb now. But the book itself is not here, but I'll be sharing some poems with you that are in it, and you'll hear more about that in a minute. So this is something of a stump speech by now, because I'm kind of on fire about what I'll be talking to you about this evening. 16 months ago now, I was honored to be appointed Oregon's Poet Laureate. 23 out of 36 counties later, I am full steam ahead in my second year of a 2-year term. And it's been an extraordinary honor to serve Oregon in this way, especially at this time in our state and nation's history. I'm deeply grateful to Governor Tina Kotek for this opportunity, as well as to the Oregon Cultural Trust, the Oregon Arts Commission, Oregon Humanities, and the other arts agencies, businesses, and individuals that support this important program. I've come to realize that my job on the road as Poet Laureate is not only to gather those who love and/or write poetry, but also to grow the chorus of poetry across the state, to grow more readers and writers to help us map our way to one another, to all things. How? On a practical level, a goal during year 2 is to launch a statewide poetry in public places initiative. And I hope each of you here will join me in this effort. At Poet Laureate workshops, events, and in interviews, I'm encouraging community members, educators, anyone who'll listen, to figure out ways to display poems where they are least expected. A poster at the DMV, a table stand in a rural cafe, on transit vehicles as modeled by Portland TriMet's Poetry in Motion, on a wall, an entranceway, along park paths, guerrilla poetry, if you will, while not only advocating for poets from the region to be included in calls for submissions to Oregon's 1% for Art program. Most of you are probably familiar with that. It's a program whereby the 1% of the budget for public construction projects such as libraries, schools, universities, municipal buildings, and so on, is dedicated to art acquisition. That needs to include poetry every time. I'm also encouraging large private construction projects to incorporate a poem in their plans, a poem writ large on permanent display. As Mary Oliver famously said, poetry is a life-cherishing force, for poems are not words after all, but fires for the cold, ropes let down to the lost, something as necessary as bread in the pockets of the hungry. On a poetry level, as I travel the state, sharing my passion for poetry and creative writing in general, I strive to showcase all forms, long, short, cowboy, sonnet, and slam, as catalysts for making good word trouble. And I encourage all who put pen to page to see themselves as agents of mutual understanding, as we strive to find, really must find, common language, common ground, common humanity. I hope to illustrate that poetry is everyone's game, everyone's jam, all-inclusive, accessible to all. I was recently in Prineville giving a presentation, and a gentleman raised his hand and said, I thought every line was supposed to rhyme. And it ended being a wonderful conversation about poems that grow out of certain, or forms that grow out of certain cultures. We started to go nuts. Sonic, Sestina, Villanelle, Haibun, haiku, on and on and on. Yeah, Prineville, you've got your cultural poetry form. So, anyhow, poetry needn't be and isn't supposed to be highbrow. It's not an exclusive club, and that's a message I feel needs to be spread a little bit better. Take, for example, as an example of not highbrow and not long and not terribly fancy, a couple of favorite one-line poems of mine. This first by Joseph Hutchinson, and it's not any bigger than a minute, but it does its job as a poem. What's the job of a poem? Change forever our perception of its subject. I have to mention that the topic of this poem was on sale at the grocery store recently, so I bought a couple. And when checking out, I asked the weary-looking woman at the till if she liked poems. Some, she said, not looking up. I have one for you, I said obnoxiously. Holding my purchase up in the air, I recited Hutchinson's one-line poem. Remember what a poem is supposed to do. Title, Artichoke. O heart, weighed down by so many wings. O heart, so we're like, oh, weighed down, oh, by so many wings. I mean, he's taken us on a big, big journey in one line, and it's an artichoke. Anyway, if you want to go to the grocery store next time, find a vegetable and write a one-line. The woman finished bagging my groceries, head down, saying nothing, printed out my receipt, handed it to me, and for the first time during our encounter, looked up and met my gaze. Thank you for the poem, she said. Or this one by Billy Collins, if you're familiar with his collection, Musical Tables. This one's titled 3 a.m. Only my hand is asleep, but it's a start. He claims he was inspired to write an entire book of short poems because his buddy A.R. Ammons wrote this, titled, oops, looking around to make sure this is okay, titled, Their Sex Life. One failure on top of another. I know you've noticed. Words shape reality. It's the old watch out what you ask for, or believe it, and you will see it. What is the reality we, each of us here this evening, seek, dream of? I dare say it would be a reality that reflects compassion, mutual respect, and caring. And I believe the way, or a way to get there, depends on the preservation, awareness, and celebration of language as an instrument of good, and that includes the languages of all communities, including cowboy poetry in Prineville, Oregon, their cultures and ecologies. So I recently came across the word landholder, an indigenous term for tree. Nice. Nice. The word struck me as magical, a word that spoke in the tongue of the thing itself, a word that celebrates the interconnectedness and sacredness of everything. Can we reshape our daily bread of words to reflect that? Can we venture out of our word silos? And we all live in those. We all do. I used the word landholder in a poem that also references a place where words mean the same thing to everyone. And when that phrase came to me, as it does, all of us writing poems know that feeling. It's like, wow, where did that come from? When that came to me, I felt the world would surely be at peace in such a place, because we'll all understand one another. Okay, Pollyanna, keep going here. I invite you to join me in the contemplation of such a word place. Together, let's explore the origin, sound, color, meaning, and power of words while reckoning what the loss of words might portend about our capacity for relationship to place in one another. The high desert of Oregon has long been my muse. So, no surprise, the desert serves as the center pole in the poem in question, the poem that has the word landholder in it. And the poem concludes with a koan, which, by way of refresher, is a paradoxical riddle. A koan takes us everywhere and nowhere at once. A silly example would be, is it faster to Chicago or by bus? Or the well-known Buddhist koan, the sound of one hand clapping. This poem, titled Lost on Purpose, references the Owyhee Canyonlands, our own state's Grand Canyon, located in the southeastern corner of Oregon's outback. Lost on Purpose, and this is one of the poems in this new collection that isn't here tonight. Did you know the Owyhee Canyonlands are 16 million years deep? That 17,000 years ago, people lived on the verdant shores of the high desert's inland sea? If I do the math in relative terms, each of our lives will have only lasted an hour. That makes this moment paramount. If whistles and bells are your distraction, here's a suggestion in the form of a question. When's the last time you were lost on purpose, somewhere in the middle of nowhere where no sign of humankind was visible, silence tangible, where the word for tree might still be landholder, or for salmon, humans with eternal life, where the madcap symphony of trills, burbles, bugles, and howls quelled the tyranny of your thoughts? The desert's grandeur reminds us of our small stature, there dwarfed by mountains that walk across desiccated playas, awed by ghost-like alkaline twisters that trade colors and places with the wind. It's there we'll discover words that mean the same thing to everyone. Each of us is both captain and crew of this high desert kinship, called on to tend in equal measure to bounty and lack as we journey from hope to despair and back. Learn to speak in the mother tongue of the sagebrush ocean, to withstand the winds that would rend what connects us. How? Go to the desert, find 4 roads that run side by side, and choose the middle one. So, words. Words. What do words have to do with it? Everything, I think. I think purposefully maintaining the diversity of language guards the health of what each word names. I believe it's incumbent on us to sustain, reinvigorate, and refresh language in all its diversity. A decade ago, English educators, environmentalists, and authors vehemently protested the many words associated with nature that were eliminated from a revised edition of the Oxford Junior Dictionary. Almond, blackberry, and crocus made way for analog, block graph, and celebrity. Catkin, cauliflower, chestnut, and clover were bumped for cut and paste, broadband. I'd venture to say the diminishment of language isn't good for anyone's or any place's health. One way to counter the risk of semantic stasis, I came up with that, it may not mean anything, but I liked it, is to get out and about, especially when we frequent places where nature is the biggest deal, where we're inspired, in fact required, to find the words for what we experience. I don't need to remind any of you here that if we don't stay curious, if we don't nurture the beginner's mind, the palette of language, and perforce our lives will become monochromatic, weak even. Worse still, if we don't have reason to strive to find words, to make up new words, resurrect forgotten words for the places we encounter, the place itself will cease to matter. Over time, the words for it will disappear. And as we know, this can be a heart place, a wild place, a hurting place, an indoor, an outdoor, an urban, or rural place. Take, for example, this poem from a young cadet and candidate for a high school diploma enrolled at the Oregon National Guard Youth Challenge program east of Bend. It's a military-based opportunity for kids who've gotten sideways in life of high school age to get a GED or a high school diploma. There's no cell phone while they're there. There's very limited access on the computer, and I just had a second visit there this year recently, and the deal is I speak with 3 platoons, separate platoons, probably 50 or so in each, 2 male, 1 female, and then out of those 3, 15 each send 15 each students are sent into a workshop. So 3 different workshops. And probably by the end of it all, marching down the hall, counting out left, right, whatever, we probably had 40 minutes together, each of those groups. And it goes like this: do I have permission to speak, ma'am? Right? Yes, go ahead. Ma'am, go ahead. Ma'am, could you help me write a love poem? This is not that love poem. This is a poem that shows a young man coming to love himself. Here's what he wrote in that workshop. I come from a black pot of ink, a well of darkness, greed, and cruelty. I've drowned 1,000 times, but not today. Today, I spill the ink upon the page and turn shadows into light. He was ready to write. He was ready. Or this excerpt from a poem titled "If It Wasn't for Immigrants" by an Hispanic high school student in Central Oregon. And if this isn't an example of using one's word power to make a case for empathy, I don't know what is. She wrote, "And I wonder truly with all my heart, how would they feel, those tearing us apart, if they sat with the people they seek to blame and realize deep down we're really the same. In the high desert, as tragic as losing the soft conversational chuck-chuck of the sage grouse or the plaintive howl of the wolf would be, I feel so too would be losing sight of a word world where black is Tuhu, sun is Taba, field mouse is Gungatse, the Paiute world, or the word world of buckaroos, vaquero from the Spanish, vaquero being the source of the word buckaroo in Spanish, twirling their lariats from lariata, recalling the cavy of horses gathered that morning using a domesticated prather horse, also called a Judas horse, to lead the wild horses, referred to as broomtails, fuzztails, or mustangs, into a corral. In the forests, as tragic as losing the sound of the bugling elk would be, so too the rich language of the logger, whistlepunk, strawline, snooze, peavey, hashers, donkey puncher, bucker, and bullcook. Or the mill worker, bluestain, boxed heart, flitch, scant, shook, wane. And on the coast, as tragic as losing the call of the gull or the deep plaintive song of the whales, so too the language of the fisherman, wango curve, puker. That's a new crew member. Ganjan, tin pants, snood, corked, lunker. So rich, it's so wonderful. At this moment in our time, it's critical that we learn to speak each other's languages. That of critters and mountains and oceans, city speak and country speak. And if we do, I believe a collaborative, celebratory way forward can happen. Just by saying these words out loud here this evening resuscitates them, reintroduces them to our lexicon, honors the ecologies, the work, the people, the activity, the good and bad decisions on all sides. When we lose diversity of language, which after all is our primary currency as humans, it is a loss of experience, a depletion of imagination, and a return to our language and thought silos. In reaction to the Oxford Press episode, British author Robert Macfarlane decided to gather what he described as, quote, fine-grained terms for land and weather, unquote, used by farmers, fishermen, miners, scientists, climbers, and poets whose ways of describing place and practice in the British Isles were getting lost. His aim? Rewild the language. Listen to some of the gems of words he stumbled across in places like Devon and Shetland. Pier, meaning a light breath of wind. Zugs, the little bog islands about the size of a bucket. Words for icicle, aquabob, clinkerbell, dagler. The word for thaw, ungive. In a similar effort, John Lloyd, another Brit, collected British place names that had been recruited as nouns for, as Lloyd says, quote, the hundreds of common experiences, feelings, situations, and even objects which we all know and recognize, but for which no words exist. Some examples. Dudo, which is a village in Northumberland, means the most deformed potato in any given collection of potatoes. The verb harble down, a village near Canterbury, to maneuver a double mattress down a winding staircase. That's harble down. And from Dorset, Kimmeridge, the light breeze that blows through your armpit hair when you are sunbathing. I'll conclude with 3 poems that are also in this forthcoming collection, and then answer any questions you might have. So, along with Lost on Purpose, which I read earlier, and As Far as I Can Anthem features poems largely written during the first year of being Poet Laureate, and I wanted them to come together really as a thank you to the governor, to the state of Oregon, to all the people that I've had the opportunity to meet and visit with and do workshops with. So that's the deal. And a lot of them are the result of special occasions across the state whereby a poem is requested for that occasion. So it includes things like the dedication of Neighbor Impact's new 10,000 square foot food bank warehouse in Redmond, to the opening of the 83rd session of Oregon's legislative ceremony a year ago. So yes, they constitute a thank you to Oregon, to all of you, and as I say, to Governor Kotek and the agencies I mentioned earlier. So it will be available later this month. The sad news is, it's on my doorstep in a box. I just got the text from a neighbor. Should I pick up the box on your doorstep? So how are we doing? Okay. So these are kind of desert poems, or not. This one's titled, Life is Uncertain. All he wants when surveying the windrows, the fresh bales, when nursing purpled nail and blistered palm, is to know she'll be waiting for him at home in the evening and he can ask her, do you remember when last February's record-breaking snow buckled the barn roof, the melt flooding the fields and filling the daylight basement? How he joked he had to swim to bed, wear irrigation boots to shoot pool. Or when the Pandora moth carcasses were so thick last June they piled up like snowdrifts under the street lights in town, the wings and antennae like frail dusk ferns on the pavement. Or in August, when the swallows suddenly left their acrobatics and tart chirps no longer spicing the evening, their empty mud-daub nests like featureless faces mouthing, no, no. How bereft he was to see them go, no sign of them since or now. Or when the greasy smoke from the forest fires never lifted all fall, the water in the swollen reservoirs and nursing rivers recruited until dry, the sun an angry orange coming and going in the sky, throwing bloody flames when eclipsed by the moon, how he'd shuddered at the sudden darkness and cold. Or the day the Pioneer Saloon stopped serving dessert, not even fudge cake. How, without dessert, without anything sweet, the way the world was going to a hell in a handbasket, he didn't know what to eat first. He wasn't joking anymore. All he wants when surveying another season is to know she'll be waiting for him at home in the evening and he can ask her, do you remember when we couldn't have said any of this? She'll take his calloused hand in hers and nod and say yes. So there are days I wake up in Bend, Oregon, where I live, but I was lucky to have nearly 3 decades of ranching before becoming a townie. And this is one of those little moments. It's titled Urban Coyote. I shield my eyes from the sun to get a better look at him. Maybe he thought I was saluting. Maybe he thought I was saluting as though he of higher rank. Or maybe he thought I was merely tipping my cap in acknowledgement of our mutual surrender, both of us reduced to scavenging the artificial green of subdivisions, skulking through graveyards of former forests, thirsting along dry creek beds. For both of us, this, after decades living out in the infinite of the high and wide desert. But he looked fine, his coat bushy and full. We do what we have to do. So, last poem. And in it, I posit that the refusal of the tribes along the Klamath River to let their words die during decades of dead water played a role in the ultimate removal of the dams. At the very least, these words can now return with the salmon to spawn in a restored homeland. The title of this poem, I've Been Lonesome for You, is repeated in Yurok as the last line of the poem, which is Aiqui. I offer this poem in tribute to and with profound respect for the Klamath River tribes. I've been lonesome for you, rewilding a river with words. Hoopa, Klamath, Karak, Shasta, and Yurok youths make a boisterous circle of kayaks in the calm crescent of the river's oxbow, then fall silent as a tribal elder's hawk feather fan blesses each young voyager with the sacred smoke from a smoldering bundle of wild celery root. Then with a whoop, they all begin the 300-mile paddle from the headwaters near Spencer Creek to the mouth on California's northern coast. This, after weeks of together learning the language of the rollicking, rejoicing waters of the rewilded Klamath River, a language their elders refused to forget. Ambo, Golga, Nepui, Tlamatl. It said if any living thing or place goes unspoken, unwitnessed for too long, it becomes faceless, unknown, prone to reckless use, or forgotten forever. The words that are the nouns of, the actions of, the descriptions of all things have to be uttered for the thing itself to live on in heart, in mind, in fact, in real time. Ishki'i, Kitfin, Is-ish, A'ama. Believe with me. The 5 river tribes' orisons about river, rapids, and salmon, their fierce loyalty to prayer, pledge, and story, is what eroded the sullen concrete resolve of Copco 1 and 2, of Iron Gate and Boyle. 11 days after the last of those dams fell, and for the first time in more than 100 years, salmon returned to spawn in their natal waters. On that 11th day, a woman walked out into Spencer Creek, the northernmost tributary of the river. A Chinook swam up right next to her feet. So overcome, they say, she cried for a week. Aiqui, Aiqui. I've been lonesome for you. Thank you. Oh.
Well, thank you so much. We have a question and answer period now, and our plan is, after the Q&A period, for Ellen to finish up with a final poem.
Oh.
Yeah. So
I'll read the one on the broadside.
that's a great idea. so
Finish my whole thing with a poem.
oh.
Finish with 3.
So the reading ends with a poem, and Kristen is going to bring the mic around So please wait for her. We usually hear the answer to the question, but we don't always get the question. So if you wait just a minute for her to get there and talk into the mic, then we'll get the question, and we'll move to her answer. And I have one. Does someone have one that they want to start with? Bob.
Good evening, Ellen.
Good evening, Bob.
So your term as Poet Laureate ends when?
12 minus 4.
What will you do then?
Probably a lot of what I'm doing now. My passion about poetry doesn't stop. And if anything, it's stronger than it was. Definitely gathering with people to exchange words and to recognize the unique cultures they represent, celebrate them with words. Anything else? What would you like me to continue doing?
That's a very good question.
Something, oh, right here, okay.
I probably have a commonly asked question, but when I listen to your poetry, you have wonderful descriptions. And my question, when you write poetry, do you always know where you're going to end up? So the words take you to some other place that maybe you didn't plan on going to.
Definitely so.
Oh,
Definitely so.
can you describe the process? I guess
Well, it's an endorphin. I mean, you hear these phrases, people writing novels, and they say the character takes over, or, suddenly you're being led this way and that really was never the plan. It's kind of like that. Sometimes it's a word sound that leads you to something. Sometimes it's a question, just a question about, this notion starting with 16 million years deep. I don't know, that just showed up and it kind of took me in a direction. I think what it is that you kind of get in, if you have a writing practice, which is key, I think, not that I'm faithful to it, I'm not the perfect every morning, no. But, they say if the muse, if you don't write every day at the same time and the muse shows up, yeah, you've missed that meeting. And I think that there's something to that special time, that writing time, and your peripheral vision improves, your imagination is open, you suspend disbelief, you let the poem guide you. And nature is so full of inspiration. Yeah, I don't know if that's an adequate answer, and I'm sure other writers here would have.
Does that ever happen to you in the middle of the night and you get up out of bed, run over and jot down a note or a word or a phrase?
Generally, when you hold a mic, it's supposed to go in front of your mouth.
I'm sorry. I don't know if anyone heard what I asked, but
He asked, does anything come to me in the middle of the night, and I jump up and write it down? I have sticky notes next to my bed. And often I refuse to turn the light on because this idea is going to keep me awake, and then I turn on the light and I won't get back to sleep. But you got to catch them. It's like fireflies. You really do. This is a little bit grim, but there's quite a reality check list of where in the library you can find books for women on the back of the door in the ladies' room. And the subject areas that are selected for that little poster are a reality check of some challenges that it is possible to be facing as a young woman, maybe. And just that litany alone, I was stunned. It wants to be something. That list wants to be something, in addition to a list of resources for young women. But it just, what's the Latin origin of these words? Where do they come from? What are they, right? So it's everywhere. It really is. I mean, I think this is the thing. Well, there's one thing, there's language silos and thought silos, but also we're so purposeful that we sometimes miss these wonderful little cues and clues and that are around us all the time. Do you get up at night and write things down?
So you were a rancher for 30 years or so before you kind of retired into poetry. As someone who lived on the land for a long time, how did you find the balance between the demands of that work and having the space for the contemplative work of writing and reflection?
The hardest job is being an urban person. I mean, what greater luxury than nature to dictate what you do with your day? There is nothing more special. I'm enormously grateful. And I will say, as my very dear friend sitting in the back row who helped me get here tonight, Eloise Damrosch knows, because she's known me for all these years, it was a rodeo. A lot of it was a rodeo. But that opportunity to live like that is just unbelievable. And so you can't help but become contemplative. And the seasons also dictate when you have more time. When the cows are bred and you're just feeding hay, and nothing really is going to start, no action until spring. A lot of really bored bulls hanging out because they've been dismissed until the next go around. So it's really ideal for a writer. So I'm grateful for all the different ways that I've been able to use writing. I mean, it's been the thread really through my life, I would have to say, that, not to be dramatic, but has held me together. But I think anybody with a passion for some art form would say that about their art form. Yeah. I hope so. I know I'm speaking to all these poets here. Willamette. Yeah. So, yes, sir.
I wanted to ask you that you write poetry, you write nonfiction, you're a columnist. How do you balance all of those? Do you write about one day as far as your plan, and then you change the plan because it's not the right muse? How does all that work for you?
Assuming it works. I would say that often with a poem, I feel if I can get the emotion or the location or the action or whatever it is tacked down, just tack it down, I can use it in other ways too. But I think, so the poetry often is the first thing. I mean, that's not always true. The column that I write, it's due. It has a deadline. And so I can't dilly-dally. And it's been a great discipline for writing poetry as well. Because you think, oh, I just need the perfect moment for the poem. And no. A poem a week. How about that, everybody? And what about limiting yourself to so many words and don't call it a poem? Or, there's so many ways to get at it. Just eliminate these titles of things. But the column is a monthly column on, guess what? Aging. And I have some copies of the result. They published the News Weekly in Bend that I write for. published the first 3 years' worth. I'm laughing because at the time I thought I was old. But it's a great opportunity for laughing at oneself. That's a very different drill. A bigger concept, big prose concepts come to me, and small poem concepts come to me. I don't know how to explain it exactly. But there is room. Writers make room for a lot of things. I mean, when you think of it, when you think of the writers that are really, really producing all the time, yeah. So I consider myself a journeyman writer. I feel very, very lucky to be able to run around and engage with other journeymen and women.
Okay, Tom, we've got a question here, and online. So buckle up, everybody.
Hi, Ellen. I was wondering if you had a particular poetic form, like that's a favorite or that you return to. And I'm looking forward to getting to know more of your work, too.
Well, you know, what's funny about the poems in this collection is the reason the word anthem came to me is they're very location-based because of this having to do with running around the state. And they're sort of longer, right? Earlier poem, but okay, a form. I'd say it's a narrative poem form. I have certainly experimented with formal forms, and I think that they're enormously useful because they often force a juxtaposition of words that you might not do otherwise, so you discover the words bump into each other. Speaking of using words and rewilding them, they're like, what are you doing here? Well, we're kind of getting along, right? So, yeah, Villanelle, Sestina, all of those wonderfully complicated forms. And then the Japanese forms are just fantastic to fool with. So many of them. Do I have a favorite one? I guess, and it may be a lack of discipline, but I tend to write in a kind of in a narrative jive, I guess. I guess so. Do you have a favorite form?
I'm a visual artist, but I love poetry.
Well, the editing you do with video is exactly what some of my longer poems could probably use some of.
I'm really hearing you dig deep into both the meaning and resonance of different words, but I'm also hearing different places expressed in your work. And as you were speaking, I was thinking about this notion of art as a gift, or as maybe a conversation, and the way that words or art of any form can mediate between maybe two people, or maybe in your case, a person and a place, or something else. And I was just wondering about how you see your work in relationship to these places that you're expressing.
Well, and I think I'm hearing you say a couple of things too. I want to honor these places. And I have another poem which talks about Fort Rock. Have any of you been out to Fort Rock in the high desert? It's this huge amphitheater of basalt, which looks like it's the remnants of a volcano. It actually chose to emerge in the middle of what was an enormous inland sea. And so it was squelched, whatever it hoped to be. It was kind of squelched, and the only thing that was left is this basalt circle. So it was really kind of an island of frustrated volcanic activity. And the poem that came to me around that was both to extol that event, and that place. But it also occurred to me in the writing of it that out of every act of destruction is something of creation, because here's this beautiful basalt amphitheater and etc. But then the other is true, is that when we create, we humans, we often destroy things to create other things. So plucking the sunflower. What is it? You love me not, right? So with any wish and any act of creation, any, there's some associated destruction. So it ends on a not so happy note, a kind of a finger wagging note. But so I want people to enjoy the place and think about the places they enjoy and showcase them in their work if they want to. And I really, really love working with people in communities, I don't care what part of the state, trying to dig a little deeper with their own use of language. Who's heard of a horse seiner? Seiner, like a fishing, like seining, net seiner. I was in Astoria, and I was walking on the waterfront, and there's this monument to fisher people. One woman's name, the wife of a fisherman. That's all it said on the little part. And then, but I came across so-and-so. It was a horse seiner. So they used to use great big percherons and big workhorses and tied the net to the horses. And at low tide in the Columbia, they'd just gee and haw them, and all those salmon would be caught into this, like a purse seiner, right? So you can tie it to the top, but it was thousands of salmon at a time. And it's been fascinating. That's the kind of thing that happens when you're working on a poem. You're like, whoa. I thought it would be cool to take a photograph of all those tributes, because they were so unique. And then I stumbled on that one, and it's just been, I want people to know about horse seiners now. I can't wait. And it's not always a happy story. Sometimes the tide would come in quickly, the horses would be out there, they couldn't handle the deeper water, and they drowned because they couldn't pull the weight of the fish back in. And the pilings under the bridge, the big bridge that goes over to Washington out of Astoria, that's what the stables and the bunkhouses were on. They're still there. Anyway, I don't know what I'm answering here, but I hope it's an answer.
Do you want to go to a question online?
Okay, first one. Hi, Ellen. This is from Amy Miller, 5224. Do you have any tips for inspiring very young children to enjoy hearing and writing poetry?
Read to me. Read to me. Again, this is when I'm in my silo of an older person, but golly, children's books, rhyming, wonderful, complex. They say that we, all of us have a kind of a rhythm built into us because of how we heard and received language at a young age. What do we hear? What do we hear on the street? What do we hear when it's read to us now? I guess more on a screen. What's all that? So the more that kids are exposed to just words and how they sound, it's like Legos. They can put them all together in a new way.
All right, a comment from a Shakes X2. You follow your spirit around, it goes where the wind blows. And from Ingrid Went, 2119, I really loved your talk and took notes like mad. Have you turned this or will turn this into an essay you might publish or post? And followed that with wonderful poems too, really looking forward to the new book.
Paid political announcement came through. Okay. Should we just stop there?
Yeah.
Does anybody have more questions?
Oh, darn. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Where can we buy your book? Oh, well, I happen to have some here. I brought some along. They're over there in that box. So what I have brought are some poetry titles and some nonfiction titles as well, including We Could Die Doing This, are the columns on aging. Well, okay, yes, I am going to read another poem.
Let's see if there's, is there a final question?
Thanks, Ellen. Yeah, I have kind of like a little question. It's like a little game, really more. I'm looking for a word, and the word is when you're on the edge of, there's a word you're looking for, and you know it's there, and you're just kind of waiting for it to drop in your hand, and you're just waiting forever. And what is that? What do you call that condition that I'm in right now, trying to find this word?
Hell. What?
Anticipation.
It's about words,
Yeah. Or no, what's it? L'esprit d'escalier. Do you know what that is, though, in French? L'esprit, the spirit of the stairs. L'esprit d'escalier. It's sort of reverse of what you're saying. It's when you get in some sort of an encounter with somebody, and as you're leaving, you think of the perfect thing you could have said. So that's the spirit of the stairs as you're leaving, so you need to reverse that and go running back up the stairs, and you'll have that word waiting for you. I don't know. But per what's his name that I referenced about the underarm hair combing thing, he would want you to make up the word, or to take a town's name and that it becomes the word for that. Everybody's looking a little cross-eyed. I think we'd better read this poem.
You want to end with this?
Yeah, let's end with this.
Okay.
So this poem is from Ranching Days. Painted shut. Here life is meted out in sections. Farm machinery parked arrow straight. Coming or going takes right angles. All those tidy, yellow bright rows of weed-free annuals. Even the unimportant knick-knack, meticulous on your mother's white sill, long painted shut. She excises crusts from triangular sandwiches. Pays the neighbor girl a penny for every dead housefly dropped into the beanbag ashtray. While you, the good son, plow under miles of dried corn stalks and all thoughts of ever doing anything else. As your wife, I sit and crack snap peas on the porch swing and dream of circles. Here only the curlicuing rivers confound the grid. Well, once at the county fair, the round trip of the Ferris wheel briefly lit up your face, softened your jaw. More time has passed. I can tell because it begins to weigh something. I smell it like the rain. The years fill my gauge with a lightness. Some other gravity pulls me away. For you, words are roadblocks, but they are how I travel. Get off your plow. Talk to me.
Thank you so much for being here with us tonight. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
My pleasure.
Can we give her another hand? She does have some books over here, which she will.
Shall I send them out?
Sure. Set them out. And I mentioned earlier that we have refreshments, so help yourself to the refreshments. That's what they're for. I did reference a Raymond Carver event, so there's some flyers, event cards. Bookmarks. Yeah, pick up one of those. John. We have our William Stafford birthday celebration, which needed to be postponed, so it's gotten rescheduled this coming Sunday. Same event, same time, 3 o'clock here, just 1 week later. So, and then John Van Driel is going to be our reader in February, so second Wednesday in February here at the library, John Van Driel. Thank you for being here. Yeah. Give yourself a hand. Yeah.